we're venting about it, but it's in the same vein as you talked about duty. There are certain duties, and one of our duties is to pick our battles because of the emotional regulation of the people we deal with. So it is a choice, but it is a choice to maintain the relationship. The same way you guys regulate yourselves because of our fragile egos, we regulate certain things because of the fragile emotional state.
That's
our access.
You should never pick that. I would never have married a man with a fragile ego because I refuse to have to regulate myself in that way.
But a lot of these things men don't know until they get married, because we don't have these issues until we actually marry you.
But that's because you don't look at the principle. There is a way you can see that in a single person that will show up in the marriage. The problem of self-regulation starts at childhood. So a person who is bad at self-regulating is that way constantly. So there are other ways you can see it in their life. So you should be looking for the signs that a person is bad at self-regulation.
But this is a complaint that's going across the board. So are you basically saying 99.999% of women are not regulated?
A lot of people are bad at self-regulation. I'm not going to say just women. A lot of people, Americans, are bad at self-regulation.
And even still, there's more aspects. There's more than just the one aspect, because like Bree keeps alluding to the physical, but there are lots of people that are disciplined and regulated physically who are not emotionally disciplined and regulated, or emotionally, mentally and emotionally, or financially. So even though it doesn't apply across systems, not everybody has every system out of whack. Some people have certain things, and that's what'll fool people. You'll see them in order, and oh man, they got their stuff in order, until you move in with them and you realize they're crazy. They're a crazy person. So
I say look at habits. I think habits are the best way to figure out a person's regulation, because most habits are habits are a part of your regulation mechanism for most people. So you look at people's habits. To me, that's the best way to figure out if a person is good at self-regulating.
And that is a good point. What we could do is pay more attention when people receive bad news. If the woman we're with, when she received bad news, is she disagreeable when she receives bad news? Because then that would apply to when we're saying something negative or giving her some bad news. Will she respond outlandishly? Or will she be somebody withhold? Or would she withdraw? So that makes some sense.
Somebody just does things that they know, like a person who's habitually late to work. That's why it's like deemed a bad thing, because all of these things are signs of something else with you. It means it's a sign that you don't care about something. It's like, oh, if you're habitually late, right? Besides, like, black people are always late, but like, you don't care about the person who's before you. Like, I was a nurse, so if you're late, I can't leave. And I just work 12 hours straight, right? So if you're going to be habitually 30 minutes late to your shift, that means you don't really care about the person. You lack empathy in that way. Or you don't really care how your actions affect the other people. You don't care that your manager is now short a nurse, and you know what kind of environment you work in. You're a participant in this environment. So you know what you being late does, but you still do it anyway. Like, that's a bad personality trait.
Okay, I found better words for what I'm trying to say. I think what you're trying to say is you're talking about conscientiousness. You are talking about conscientiousness. You can track that through their habits. But what me and AR are saying is there are highly neurotic people who use the negative emotions to impact the relationship. So somebody could be highly conscientious, but still be also highly neurotic. Is what I think. That's where we're having a disagreement. So somebody could be highly conscientious. They could be dutiful. They could show up on time. They could be super respectful to their boss. They could come home, perform all their dutiful stuff. But because they're high in negative emotions, when they get that negative feedback or that criticism, they shut down or withdraw, and has nothing to do with their conscientiousness. I think that's the best way to get to where we're having a breakdown at.
I can understand that. So most women you think are high, generally are higher in the negative emotions?
Well, also we know that women go through a lot of stuff anyway, right? Especially after birth, but definitely with type of deodorant women use does regulate their behavior issues. Birth control, especially in my situation, she's different. There's a major difference between those two. So there's a lot of things that women do go through that alters that. You're talking about a characteristic trait, but another issue is that if men were to say, well, you know what, I can't express myself, 90% of y'all won't be married. Y'all won't be married, and this will go across all races, all the women, because men are not therapists. We're not here to become your therapist, and I know it's the other way around as well, but there's a lot of women that have so many good traits about them, but this particular thing is something that women share across the board, and
choose your battles, but it's like y'all not choosing any battles.
Because our battle is throughout the whole day, right? So our battle was all day. You just said it. You just said how we talk to our boss. We can't be honest with our boss. We can't express ourselves at our boss. Our supervisor, we can't express ourselves to our co-workers because they'll take a little stupid email, write us up. We can't be honest with the customers. The customers, we got to be like a little bitch to them. So we're being bitched by our boss, supervisor, customer, whatever, and then we come home and now we're supposed to be like the ones in charge, but we can't even be fully in charge in that sense, because now what's going to happen is that I'm going to receive a backlash just like I would, or maybe worse than I would with my boss. So even with them, I can't be honest. I got to kind of like tone down, be over. My boss knows I can fuck him up. He knows that. But I
but at the same time, like from what I'm hearing y'all saying, it's not the same, because y'all are basically like it's either you're doomed to silence, right? Or you try to find a nicer way to say it. Now the choice is yours. The only reason I likened it to the boss, because from what y'all are saying, like, yeah, your boss can fire you or write an annoying email, but you're also saying that this woman can hold sex over your head.
Or fire, divorce us as well.
Right, or divorce you, right? So I'm saying if that dynamic is the same, then the only choice is like to be silent or try to find a different way to say what you want to say, like you would in another environment where you feel like they have some power over you in a sense.
Let me ask you a question. Over you. Both of you a question real quick. Now, the reason why we use that, because we talked about that Nikki Giovanni, James Baldwin thing that lied to me. This kind of applies in the same thing. Not being able to talk to your partner and treating your people professionally different, with a different affect. You know what I'm saying? We're much more agreeable at work because, we have something on the line. Can't we take that home and just tweak it so it doesn't feel like a facade? If we have professionalism, can't come home with relationalism? Can't we have a level of etiquette and decorum that we establish between us as partners to know that, like, we communicate that? Like, I'll tell you this and I'll tell you certain things, or okay, well, if you do tell me something and I take it hard, I'll tell you, give me a moment. Like, can't we establish relationalism so that way we can talk about hard things?
You can establish rules of engagement within a relationship. And I think just like you would at work, like everything is not going to be a battle. Don't nobody want to be sitting down every night having deep talks about, I didn't like this and that. But no, I think if it's the important thing, then yes, I think you do establish rules of engagement within your marriage. It can be done. But yeah, I do also understand that it's very partner dependent. And I'm not sitting here ignoring that a lot of people are emotionally unintelligent, horrible at self-regulation, was not modeled respect growing up in all its ways, shape, and form. So, like, the likelihood that that's gonna happen, I mean, most people don't even know how to look at people's STD test results before they have sex with them, and that's supposed to be something we do. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that people do what they're supposed to do. So no, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're just not gonna just show up in a marriage and then all of a sudden be able to do it. But what I am saying is some of those characteristics that can prove to you that that person may be the person you're looking for, a lot of people don't like it because it makes them feel some type of way about themselves, or it can rub you the wrong way. I would literally be like, I want to see your STD test results and read them myself. And people would be like, oh. And they be like, well, can I see yours? I'd be like, sure. I have a copy here.
On the first
and
date.
You can read them. No, not the first date. Before we engage in sex, I need to see your STD. I need to see the testing that you had done. And a lot of people, that will rub them the wrong way. Cool. If that rub you the wrong way, I ain't trying to fuck with you anyway. Because you can't handle me. Period. So a lot of the stuff that's actually going to prove, I'm not saying like why is that a negative trait? That should not be seen as a negative trait unless you yourself, it makes you feel some type of way because that's not how you carry yourself. I mean, I don't really understand that. So that stuff doesn't disappear just because y'all get married. The person that can't handle you asking to see their STD results probably ain't going to be able to handle you saying anything to them if it calls out a bad behavior or a flaw.
Right. Real quick, Eric, before you, I just want to read these two chats because I like what they were talking about. Nova talked about, like y'all implied, someone can have good established habits but still have bad general tendencies, like tending towards addiction but not building a habit, like a lot of stuff what Bria's saying. And Cog Parrot, I'm just saying it's a good example. If you can't look after yourself, then surely looking after someone else is difficult. I think I understand your principles about 4 aspects. However, I feel it is used in vain somewhat. But definitely, they both definitely agree with a lot of what Bria's saying. So I mean, you're making sense. I get you. But I'll go ahead and get your response in.
Yeah, I don't.
If you have one.
Yeah, I definitely do. I don't believe that we can because at work, I'm not me. You know, the way I would be towards at work versus like if someone were to fuck with me at work, I probably won't do. I probably be like, okay, there's consequences. But outside, I'm like, okay, I gotta, I'll probably handle it a little bit differently, a lot more violently. So the way I'm in with my boss, I'm fake. I'm not really AR, right? To a degree, I mean, you have to be you, but there's certain. But now, when I go home to my wife, I can't bring that professionalism there because the professionalism is not who I am as a person. Professionalism is to impress. I'm with my partner. She should be getting who I mean, you should be respectful. But who I am is not this professional in the suit and sitting up straight and talking. That's for the profession. That's for for us to take care of family, and I would expect her to be who she is as well. And my boss is not going to change my personal life. He's not raising my children. You get what I'm trying to say? He's not raising my children. So what goes on at the house is what's really going to affect me directly. If my boss doesn't like me, he's giving me a hard time, I can get another job. Somewhere I can get another job. I don't have to tolerate him. But my wife, I can't replace that. I shouldn't be replacing that. So my boss, I don't have to work things out with my boss. I could be say, you know what, give myself 90 days and I'm applying for a new job. Hey, I'm not feeling well. Let me go for the job interview. I'm not feeling well, but really what I'm doing is like I went for a job interview. My wife, I can't get a whole interview. Another wife interview while she's at home. So I think that's why I think what it is with men is that it's a little fear factor. It's not a fear factor not getting laid that night or having issues. The issue with women is that it lingers. It's not just, you say that, you say something, it's gonna linger on for a few days. So that's my thing.
No, I hear you. I mean, relationships are difficult. I think sometimes we underestimate how difficult it is to deal with a whole nother human being and all of their standards and expectations. Like you said, you could replace your wife, but the opportunity cost is incredibly high. Exactly. But that goes back to what AR was talking about with the limited term. Like, again, I actually thought about this a long time ago. And because most, that 7-year itch thing, that's why I say it shouldn't be 10 years. It should be 5 years. The marriage, it should have to be renewed every 5 years because a lot of people don't even make it to 7. That 7-year itch, it's hard to. And that old adage, like if you're getting divorced at 10 years, you were only really married for 5. The last 5, you've been, getting headed towards divorce. So I mean, you don't fall out the day you get a divorce. You've been falling out for some time. So man, with that being the case, I really do think that there should be an expiration date on marriage certificate. I know it's not practical for family building, but we're already not building families. So if the outcome that marriage was intended for has already, that ship has sailed, it's already not working. let's reinvent it to suit us as we are now. We're very self-centered. We're very flighty. Let's make marriages for 5 years, 5-year terms, like a pro football contract. You got 5 years to impress, then we can re-up for another 5 years. And then you can add some stipulations. If you make it through the rookie contract, then you get the big contract, like, sports. You get the big contract after the 5 years. It'll be 10 or 15 years. And you add some, the prenups built in and all that, so that the woman gets alimony. She's vested. After 5 years, she's vested, so she can get the alimony and the child support. Because all these dudes online are worried about alimony and child support, and most of us are broke. So I don't understand that argument. But if you're that worried about it, let's say you got to get through the 5-year plan, you got to get through the rookie contract before you can even access that. I think a lot of dudes, there's a way to modify the way we operate instead of keeping doing the same thing and hoping a different outcome comes from it. Because the way we're doing it now, it's not working for anybody. Most, especially black women, are not getting married, and if they are married, they're not staying married. So why would we keep doing it the same?